Welcome to another episode of Be Inspired. I'm Michael Patton.
And I'm Tina Patton.
And we're your hosts for the show today. Today we have as our guest Dr. G. David Moss. Dr. Moss is the Director of African American Students and Adults Services. Dr. Moss, thank you so much for joining us today.
Apostle Patton.
Welcome.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Today we want to discuss education, and we want to discuss the opportunities that come with education as well. Who better than to have but Dr. Moss, who's engaged and involved in education as well. Dr. Moss, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am from Florida originally. I got a bachelor's degree in music education from Florida State University. I have a master's in counseling and human systems from Florida State as well. And then I moved north and decided to brave the cold weather and came to the University of Notre Dame. And I received a master's degree in counseling psychology and a PhD in counseling psychology.
Oh, wonderful. I'm curious to know, what instrument did you major in?
I was a clarinet player.
Oh my goodness.
When I was in college. And I tell you, I still have great reflections about what happened when I was a band director. Those were some of the most exciting times in my life. Watching kids enjoy music and gain a love for music.
This is great. Well, I happen to know that before you came to School Corporation, you worked for the University of Notre Dame.
That's right, I sure did.
A little bit about that?
Well, I came to Notre Dame as a grad student, and then once I graduated, I was offered a position there in student affairs.
Okay.
And so I started off as a special assistant to the vice president, and then I became an assistant vice president for student affairs, and has also served as the senior consultant for the Division of Student Affairs.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this show we want to share with everybody that's listening and viewing that there are various opportunities in education, and so we're going to talk about some of those opportunities that people have to get higher education after high school.
Yes.
But since you're working in primary education, secondary education, we'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay, sure.
So what are some of the things that we can do, or some of the steps that young people can do to survive in high school?
High school. Well, I think in high school, it really is about having a relationship with your teachers. Really taking the time to introduce yourself, to be active in the class, and to ask the teacher questions on a regular basis. They have information, they have knowledge, and it's their responsibility to give you that knowledge. Or I should say, it's your responsibility to get that knowledge from that particular teacher.
Wonderful.
So I think just being involved on the high school campus and really knowing that this is your institution, this is your time to shine, it's your time to gain the things you need that can propel you into your future.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So Dr. Moss, how can parents partner with the teachers to help our children or their children become successful in school?
Right. That's a great question. And the thing that I say is that it doesn't start in high school, right? It really starts in the primary level. And the one thing that parents can do in the primary level that can really accentuate and really propel their students to higher levels is they have to read to their children on a regular basis. Spend time reading to your children. That is one way to build that foundation of knowledge and wisdom to help the child grow. Once you read to your child, you then begin to understand the kinds of leanings they have. You begin to understand the things they enjoy, the things they don't like. And you can actually share some of that with the teachers they're going through school with to help them better serve the needs, the educational needs of your children. So once again, primary level, you have to read to your children on a regular basis. When they get to the intermediate level, I think that parents need to stay involved. So often, when they get to that level, parents kind of brush their hands and say, okay, now they're at this level, they're older now. Some might even say, well, my child is grown. But in reality, they still need their parents' support. And so I would say at the intermediate level that parents stay involved. Don't allow the school to push you out. You still go to the school, still ask questions, and still engage those teachers in meaningful ways to really help the child. Now in high school, I think the parent's role is to really expand the world of the child. Just really give them a vision for what might be possible. So primary, intermediate, kind of growing in, knowing yourself, knowing school, learning. But when you get to high school, it's time to take field trips. It's time to go to museums. It's time to really expand the world of that child so that they have something to shoot for that's bigger than themselves.
That is great. So we're talking about opportunities as well. What is your role at the South End Community School Corporation?
Well, my role is the Director of African American Student and Parent Services. And my job basically is to help ensure that our black families and our black children get the best that they can from our education process.
Do you find that parents reach out to you for help in regard to what's going on with their children in schools?
They really do.
They?
They
Okay,
really
good.
do. And in some ways, there are questions there are issues there that many of our parents already know the answer to. They just want a little support
Okay.
to move forward with that. And so I'm just a ear that can listen and make a phone call here and there
Okay.
to try to resolve certain issues. But mostly our parents are doing a pretty good job in terms of staying connected with their children. And so my goal is to take that connectivity and make it productive. To make sure that parents are communicating well with the staff members, to make sure that parents are living up to their responsibility, and indeed making sure our schools live up to their responsibility.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So how does a student know that college is for them?
Well, you know, Apostle, I think in some ways it's about passion.
Okay.
It's about passion. What is it that drives you? You know, I'm from Florida, and so we say what stirs your grits, right? So, you know, what is it that stirs your grits?
Right.
And once you figure that out, then you have an opportunity to figure out the ways in which you might make that possible for yourself. So, you know, I don't necessarily think college is for every student, but I do think education past high school is for every student, whatever that might look like for you.
Right, right. And so we know that, again, education provides kind of an open door for you to walk through and do things that you maybe couldn't do otherwise. What are some of the other benefits of going to college after high school? What are some of the benefits that you find?
You know, years ago when I was doing recruiting for Florida State University, and I would travel around the state talking with high school students about college and about the importance of college, you know, and why it was necessary to keep growing intellectually and in their education. And I would tell a little analogy, and I would say, you know, as a person in high school, you're kind of just starting out in life. And so you're kind of on the lower level. And when you're on the lower level, what kind of things can you see? Well, you can see the legs of a chair, you can see the gum under the table, you can kind of see the dog running around, and that's about all you see. Once you graduate high school and move on to life after high school, well, then you might want to get a little job. So you might want to say go to a McDonald's or a Subway. I don't know if I can say that now on the air, but I don't want to give any credit. But the reality is, if you find a small job, and so then you think, oh wow, well now I'm kind of standing. I'm on my knees now. I'm not down here. I got a little bit of money, a little bit of autonomy, you know, being able to buy some things, and so now I'm on my knees. But I still can't necessarily reach all the things on the table. So once you get your bachelor's degree, then you're able to stand up. And when you stand up, the view changes, right? It's a different view. You can see broader, you can see bigger, you can see deeper, right? And so now you see it on the, before when you were down here, you could barely see what was on the table. But now you see filet mignon, and you see lasagna, and you see strip scampi, and you begin to say, wow, those are all things that are possible now that I have my bachelor's degree. When I didn't have it, I had no idea what was on the table.
Right.
But now I have it. And then when you get your PhD, well, now you get a little chair to stand up on. So not only can you see what's on the table, now you can reach across the table and say, you know, I think I feel like a little sandwich today. And no, not a sandwich. I think I want a chicken Caesar salad today. And all of a sudden you have these opportunities that you never had. So for me, that's the value of education, that it opens your world to see what the possibilities are. And then it gives you the platform by which you can actually reach those possibilities and make them real.
So how do we motivate young people to, once they begin to crawl and they have that job and now they're making a little bit of money, and most of them think, well, I've arrived.
That's right.
So how do we motivate them past the kneeling or on the knees to actually stand up? What is it that we can show them that because if they don't have that experience already, it's difficult for them to
Right.
envision it. So how do we keep them from staying down and get them up?
Well, I think this is where the idea of role models come in, where you begin to find individuals in your community that have some of the same passion, some of the same disposition that your child might have, and you begin to hook them up. And they begin to see, okay, this man loves music the way I love music, right? And this young man isn't just working down the street at Burger King. This young man is actually composing music and getting jobs and being flown across the country. I work with a young man now on a program where he is one of the best drummers in the United States, from right here in South Bend, right? And he has a desire to reach out and help other kids love music. And so here's a young man who took his passion, and through Billy Sticks Nicks, right? Got hooked up with Billy Sticks Nicks, and that began his journey toward professional drumming. From my perspective, there are a number of different types of people in the church. Professionals, laborers, artists, you name it, we have it, right? And so there has to be a way for you to begin creating relationships within local congregations, local churches, and don't feel as though if you try one, it doesn't work, don't give up. Right? There is a way in which when my wife and I came to South Bend, we went to 25 different churches before we settled on one, right? We just realized that we were looking for something, and we went around and we looked until we found what we were looking for. So don't give up. It's there. The role models are there. Don't give up. Keep looking.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
So when you look at college, share with us what's the benefit to going to college versus getting a job out of high school?
Well, the research says that if you get a job without a high school diploma, you're going to make on average, about $20,000 to $24,000 a year. If you have a high school diploma, you're going to make in the range of $33,000 a year. With a bachelor's degree, that's going to jump up into the 50s. And so in some ways, I'm torn about this because, I believe in learning for learning's sake. You learn because it's healthy for you. You learn because it expands your horizon and it gives you the opportunity to engage other people in substantial ways. But it's also economically feasible to your advantage to get the degree, right? So now, and if you get your PhD, you're looking at 3 times as much as you would make if you graduated from just high school. So, and I think that our children sometimes have myopic perspectives where they just see what's right in front of them. And so, you have a little $2,000 beater of a car, and you can get back and forth to work, and you can go to the movies with your friends, but you're missing so many other opportunities when you have those resources available to you. So to me, why go on to college? Why go on to learning after high school? The first reason is that I think it's mandated by Scripture that we become excellent in all areas, right? That we have an opportunity to take this vessel and make it the very best that it can become for the glory of God and for the benefit of humankind, right?
So you're telling us that the trade-off, because I'm going to segue into the finances of it. How do we finance college? I attended Notre Dame, got a master's degree from Notre Dame in 1991. At that time, I went through the executive program, and 1 year was maybe $40,000.
Okay.
So how, when you're talking to a young person who's maybe 18 years old, and you say to them now, this is what, how many, 25 years later,
Right.
almost, that it's going to cost you upwards of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year just to get your undergraduate degree. And how do we weigh those two out as opposed to, well, I'll just get a job and just forget all that?
Right, right. Well, once again, that starts in primary school. You don't wake up and at 20 years old and decide, well, now I want to do all these different things, right? So you have to begin to cultivate that while they're young.
Yes.
And as they grow, they begin to see just the benefit of how you're modeling the opportunities that are before them. Now, let's just say that a family, for whatever reason, didn't have the kinds of educational supports that you might want to have as the child is growing. And now they're at a place where they're just graduating from high school and they don't feel as though they have the academic pedigree to go on to upper level education. You know, there are a number of ways to make that happen for yourself. You know, there are companies that will pay for students to go to college, you know, but that takes you being diligent, effective, and good at what you do. So the company can see you and say, this is a person we want to keep in our company, so therefore let's invest in them so they can actually come back and invest their talent
Yes.
into our company. There are scholarships for almost everything that you can imagine. Left-handed scholarships, Daughters of the American Revolution scholarships. Google has all kinds of technology scholarships. Coca-Cola has, and so those scholarships are available through guidance counselors and through websites. Just get online and begin to do a Google search for those kinds of scholarships, and they're there for you to apply for. You know, the thing that I feel is the most important, though, is to really find your passion and follow your passion. Because when you do that, you never feel as though you're losing out.
Yes.
You never feel that. When I started teaching, I was making about $16,000 a year, and I was as happy as I could be, right? Because I knew I was in my calling,
Yes.
and because of that, I didn't mind making a little less. But mind you, on that salary, I bought a house and I bought a car. So I was also able to use the money effectively
Yes.
and efficiently
Yes.
to achieve my goals.
I want to put a plug in for the South Bend Public Library because they have a wonderful resource where you can search for scholarships. And it was one that I wasn't even aware of until maybe a few months ago. It's just a wonderful resource where you can, again, left hand, right hand, you know,
That's
black
right.
hair, red hair,
That's right.
earring in your ear. Well, maybe not that far. But there
Right.
are all sorts of opportunities for people to get on that site and obtain the financing that you need for college.
You know, one of the things that I've been really pushing since I've been here in this position is the idea of changing your mindset from having a fixed mindset to having a growth mindset. And that reality comes out of the work of Carol Dweck out of Stanford University. And she talks about how there are two types of intelligence. One is fixed, that is you are born with that intelligence, and that intelligence remains stagnant and stable throughout your entire life. The other is growth, and that is the idea that your brain can grow, that you can learn more, and by learning more, you actually increase
Yes.
your intelligence. She gave a puzzle to a number of small kids and told them to go ahead and solve the puzzle. Well, it was an easy puzzle, so all the kids did it very well, and they all did great. To half the kids, she said, you know, you were successful because you were smart, because you were brilliant, because you were intelligent. That's why you got this puzzle. To the other half of the students, she said, you know what? You got this puzzle correct because you worked hard. You put a lot of effort into that. You really focus on your job, and you got the puzzle done. So then she went back to those same students and said, hey, listen, I'd like to give you another puzzle. Now, this time you have a choice. Either you can choose an easy puzzle like you did before, and you will probably get it right. Or you can choose a more difficult puzzle, which you may not get right. It might be a challenge. Which would you like? The students who were told they were brilliant and they were smart all chose the easy puzzle. The students who were told you work hard, you apply effort, and you were focused on what you did, they chose the more difficult puzzle.
Wow.
Right? Why? Well, she surmises that when you know that you're smart and you're brilliant and you're intelligent, you've already arrived. You have already gotten what you're going to get. And your goal now is to protect that, right? So in your eyes, I have to remain smart. I have to remain brilliant. In order to do that, I got to take the easy puzzle.
Oh, wow.
Right? But if I believe that it's my hard work, then I don't look at failure as failure. I see failure as an opportunity to learn something, to grow my intelligence, right? And so that's what I think is so important and needed in our culture, in our community, is this idea of the growth mindset. And so even though you might graduate high school with a 2.5 GPA, and you may not have college in your future, you think with a growth mindset, you don't mind taking the risk. You don't mind going to Ivy Tech and signing up for 1 or 2 classes. You don't mind going to a class where you're the only person there of your particular background. You don't mind taking the challenge of elevating yourself academically because you have a growth mindset. And you know there is no failure in the growth mindset.
Right.
In today's society, we like the microwave kind of
That's right.
concept.
Yes.
We want it quick, fast, and in a hurry. I could not attain my bachelor's degree quick, fast, and in a hurry. It was a process.
That's right.
It took time to get there. It's taken you time. It's taken my wife Tina time. And so you have to embrace the process.
That's right.
So that the end result gives you what you are inspired to do.
That's right.
And passionate about as
That's
well.
right. That's right. That's right. And there's this thing called delayed gratification.
Sure.
Yes.
Right? Right? That in some ways, I've had to put some things on the back burner that I may have wanted to do right away.
Sure.
Because the vision and the goal was more important than my immediate satisfaction, right? And so you got to realize that sometimes I can't spend all my time with my friends.
Right.
Sometimes I have to put down the cell phone.
Right.
I can't text.
Right.
You know, but recognizing that if you have a vision and a goal, you can then begin to exercise the idea of not being gratified right away, delayed gratification. But if you have no vision, if you have no goal, then all of a sudden, what is in front of you becomes the most important thing, and you become immediate. They call it the tyranny of the urgent. Right? Yeah.
That kind of brings me to, I mean, so now you've inspired us to, attain some education after high school. So we've been inspired to do that. But I really don't have a passion for really too much. So I really don't know what I want to do. I just want to go. So what are some tips that you would have for people in that position? I really don't have a passion. So how do I get one, or how am I going to excel in college once I get there?
Well, I think for that question, we have to look at the kinds of things that you value. And what are the things that you value, things that are important to you? Do you value human relationships? Do you value making money? Do you value having vacation time? Do you value professional development? What are your values? What are the things that you really like about your life and about being in this world around other people? Then once you find your values, you then begin to line yourself up with folks who have the same values.
That's good.
Right? And as you begin to line up with those folks with the same values, you begin to talk. And as you begin to talk, you begin to realize, oh, okay, this person who I agree with in so many things also likes this, likes this, likes this. Maybe I might try that, right? But once again, it gets back to that growth mindset. right? Are you willing to try those things?
Yes.
Right? And not to stay in your own little corner and think that, well, woe is me, nothing can ever happen. But can I take that risk of making those connections
That
away
is
from
good.
myself?
And I ask that question because I run into so many young people. They may be sophomores, juniors, and some seniors. But I say, what are your goals or aspirations for your adult life, your adulthood? And they may, shrug their shoulders. I don't know, or I don't have any. And I ask that for that reason, because we want to inspire them to continue their education for sure. Then we want to also give them some opportunities or some options where they can, get to
Right.
school and actually be successful.
Yeah. You know what I believe about that? Let me challenge that a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I believe they know,
Okay.
but they're afraid to say. Because they're afraid of failure. They're afraid of saying this thing out loud, and now it becomes an expectation
Yes.
and a responsibility, and I might hold you accountable for those words.
Right.
And so there's a fear there that, if I say this out loud, I might have to do something to move in that direction.
That's good. And I want to inspire the adults then to allow the young people to be in a safe place.
Yes.
To actually verbalize what it is that they want to do.
That's right.
Let it be
That's right.
safe for them so then that we can encourage them to make the steps to get there.
That's right. That's right.
That's good.
Because so often we don't know the power that we have in a young person's life until we take the time to really build a strong, solid, safe relationship. And in that relationship, then they begin to say some things that are dreamlike, that are vision-like,
Yes.
that really begin to look towards excellence.
Oh, that is excellent.
Yeah. I'm of the mindset, as you talked about, the hard worker. I don't see my making mistakes as a failure.
Okay.
I see it as an opportunity to
There you
learn
go.
from it for better. As I started college, I made some mistakes. I didn't have good study habits. I partied a lot.
Okay.
And so I didn't do well on tests. And I would call back home because my parents were able to see my grades, and I'm sure
That's good.
that
That's
all
good.
of us have made some mistakes as we started college. I believe
Right.
it just comes with the territory. What would you say to students who are starting college and at some point they make some mistakes as they're walking out their journey?
Well, I have a son who is in college right now, and as I talk to him, I think it's important for young people to recognize that college is an important time of life. It's a growth time, it's a learning time, it's a time to figure out who you are and who you want to become. And so they need to recognize, as you said earlier, that it's not an end game in itself, there's a process, right? And if they really believe that we have purpose, right? And I'm speaking as a man of faith now, right? That as God directs us through our purpose, that there's nothing wasted in God's economy.
That's right.
Right? Nothing wasted. That God always uses everything
Yes.
to make us into the people He wants us to become. So now, yeah, you partied, but now you're Apostle Patton, right? and God took that, right? Took that passion and that excitement and turned it towards His glory
Yes.
and His people,
Yes.
right? And so it wasn't wasted.
No.
It may have been misdirected at the time, but it's the same passion. It's the same love. It's the same connection to people, but now God has put it in the right perspective. So for me, recognize that even though you may have made a mistake, there's a bigger purpose at play. And if you can remain humble and rooted, God will take that and move you in the direction and create in your life something that is so miraculous and amazing that folks will look at you and go, wow, really? This? Yeah. So don't ever think that the mistake you make is the end game, because it's not the end. In some ways, God takes that same mistake and uses that to minister to folks who need it the most. And He does it through your life.
Wow, that is excellent. Now, we know that college is not just for 18-year-olds.
That's right. That's right.
There are some adults that are out there that have aspirations or dreams or goals that they need college. They need some kind of, or trade school. They need something after when they have finished high school.
Yes.
What do you say to the older person or the adult, more senior person in regard to them going to school? Is it easy? Is it, can you navigate your way through it? I already have a family, got a husband, got children, but I still want to go to school. Is that possible for me?
Do it.
Do it?
Do it. Do it. You will not regret it. You will not regret it. I think that in some ways we have to understand that our mental, spiritual, and emotional growth happens throughout the entire lifespan. That is not, okay, you're 23 years old, okay, you can stop growing, it's all over. No, it happens throughout the entire lifespan. And for me, as a person who went back to school later in life, it was actually much better because later in life, I was more focused, I was more directed, and I knew I needed to get it done.
Yes.
And so I kind of pushed right through. So, I think that older adults need to recognize that they're only limited by their own perception of themselves. Sure. I'm talking to individuals right now who are in their 50s, and I'm saying to them, you know what? You should be thinking about a PhD.
Yeah. Yes.
I just think that whatever we can do to elevate who we are as individuals, we need to do.
Yeah. And and we're right here in South Bend, and this is a place where there are many colleges and universities that are excellent, that we don't have to leave town to go.
That's right.
And so I think for older adults, it's something that they know that, but
Yeah.
we just need to encourage them to let them know that you don't have to leave town to do it. I mean, we have various institutions that we can go to.
And what a great example for your children, for your nieces, for your nephews, for your grandchildren, for your neighbors' children.
Yes.
To say, you know what? I won't take any excuses from you.
That's right.
Because look what I'm doing.
That's right.
All right? I am still in the game. I'm still in the hunt. I'm working it out. I'm going forward, right? And so now, let me speak into your life. Yeah, I'm going. It's not easy. I have all these things to do, all these responsibilities, but yet I know this is what's right for me. And I know in the end, I'm going to receive the benefit. And the benefit isn't just about economics. It's just not. It really is about your own self-worth and how you feel as an individual. When I go to the airport and they say, paging Dr. Moss, right? I mean, there is something about that people might say, oh, that's kind of immature. Well, just call me Dr. Moss. That's all I have to say, right?
Well, Michael, we've been having a good time here with Dr. Moss, and I know that we're out of time.
Oh, we're out of time already? Oh, my goodness.
I think we are. But it's been really great, and I believe that the viewers have been inspired to reach for higher heights and really just to become all that, God has created them to be through education.
Yes.
And education really affects your career and your life. And I like the tidbits and the tips that Dr. Moss has shared with us in regards to education and the opportunities that education can afford us at the same time as well, making the decision either to go to college or to take on employment that will enlarge our capacity to do more. Both of them work. It just depends on the choice you make and what you want in life as a result. And so thank you, Dr. Moss, for sharing with us today your tips, your tidbits that have really inspired my wife and I, and as well, I believe, inspired our watching or viewing audience also.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Today, we thank you for joining us for this episode, and we encourage you to be inspired, to be all that God has called for you to be as you pursue education after high school.